So, good morning or good night, depending on where you are in the world, and welcome to another album review of the Shield Dude on a Couch. And today I have a very different album review for you guys. I'm going to review the latest album by Puerto Rican, trap, reggaeton, whatever hip hop artist you want to name, Bad Bunny. And his new album is called Nadie sabe lo que va a pasar mañana. And for my English speaking friends that don't know Spanish, it means no one knows what is going to happen tomorrow. So this is the follow-up to his last album last year, Un Verano Sin Ti, which was like a huge album for the artist. And I gotta say, it was a guilty pleasure of mine. I really enjoyed that album. I thought it had like catchy lyrics. It had different elements of hip hop, salsa, electronics mixed into his sound. So this is a very big follow-up to what may have been one of his biggest albums yet. So with this album, it's again 22 songs and an hour and 22 minutes of music. That's a long fucking album. And yeah, in 22 songs, Bad Bunny goes through different styles, but I think this is an album that it's more chill than the other one. It doesn't have like salsa elements, or the other album felt like you were living in the summer. This album feels more like you're like in a nightclub, in a shady part of town. So yeah, it has some interesting elements to it. So the best way that I can describe to you this album is it's half of the songs are reflective and the other half of the songs are horny. And I tell you something, aren't we all reflective and horny at the same time? Sometimes both. So you can't judge Bad Bunny for doing both. So the album starts with a song called Nadie sabe, which means no one knows. And this is a 6.5 minute album opener, which for this style of music, that's a long track, but it's a track that's more like slow and mellow. And he really goes off on this song about being famous and about people thinking that they know you because they hear your music or hear you in a podcast talking and all of that shit. He says in part of the track that there was an incident that he had with a fan that was trying to like take a selfie and he threw away her phone. And he talks about that. And he also talks about like people not being in the shoes of famous people and sometimes envying them. And sometimes he says there's a line in the track that he says that he could be playing to 1,000 people or more and feel alone. And I thought, wow, that's very reflective and deep. And I think this is it's the best tracks on the album. And I think it's something different from him. And definitely it's a track that, it's for an album opener, it's slower. And he has some elements of like old, like it sounded like lounge music a little bit in some parts of the song. And that goes into the second track that is called Monaco, that like vibe of like being in a 1930s nightclub. And on this one, he raps more, and it's more about talking about like more about being famous and shit like that. But then the horniness takes over, especially on the third track, which is called Fina. And this song, for you, my English-speaking friends, it's a very addictive song. But when you're singing this song, it's all about, he's singing about like sometimes the girls that are the most fina, which means like the most classy girls, are the ones that are the more slutty. So yes, women, if you're singing this and you don't know what you're saying, you're calling yourself a slut. Yeah. So yeah, it's a track that it's more like traditional, like Bad Bunny style. And then he goes, like other standout tracks. I'm not going to talk about every 22 song. I like Gracias por nada, which means thanks for nothing. And on that song, he's talking about maybe about an ex-girlfriend, and she leaves him, and he's like, thanks for nothing. The relationship didn't go anywhere. Then it goes into a longer track called Teléfono Nuevo, which means new phone. And that's like also a 6 minute song. And there's a part on the song that it starts like more chill and it gets faster. and then you get like a message like the phone is disconnected, and then you get like a rap star vocal, and there's like different like back and forth, and that's something that this album has. It has other guest stars, like for example in Fina, I forgot to mention that it's there's a part where I think it's Tego Calderon who's doing some of the rhymes, and he's a very famous rapper, reggaeton artist from Puerto Rico that started years ago. And I think Bad Bunny is paying homage to him with this song, having him as a guest star. Then you have like your standard like party tracks like Baby Nueva, Mercedes Carota, Los Pits. That one's a fun track. I thought that one had a great beat, more hip hop beat to it, and I thought it was very addictive. Then you have a song called Vaticano, which is Vatican, but he spelled it with a B. And that song, he really takes aim at the church people, and he's saying, you church people are saying that I'm so evil, but I didn't invent marijuana, I didn't invent sex, like fuck off, like with your moral double standards. So I thought that was interesting as well. The track that it was used as a first single, Where She Goes, which is the only track that has that English title, it was more like electronic track, and like vocally and lyrically, it's all about like a one night stand, that he has this one night stand, and he knows that he's not gonna sleep with her again, but he's like reminiscing of how much he wanted to sleep with that girl. So yeah, but he named it in English, but it's mostly a Spanish song. Then it has so many tracks that it kind of loses me with some of the tracks, because it gets a little bit repetitive at times. Then almost at the end, he gets reflective again with Acho PR, which PR is short for Puerto Rico. And on that song, he's talking about like reminiscing and remembering like high school friends. In a way, I'm like, he's remembering his friends. So he goes back to reflective, and then he goes back at the end to horniness again with Un Preview, which is like a preview of like what his music is gonna sound later. And that track has the most reggaeton beat to it of the whole album. That really sounds like old school reggaeton from the 90s. If you're from Puerto Rico, even if you hated that music, you will recognize that beat. So what are my final thoughts on this record? Nadie sabe lo que va a pasar mañana by Bad Bunny. I enjoyed his last record a little bit better. I thought it was there were more memorable tracks on that one, but I think this one he's continuing of what he has done in the past and what he's doing as an artist now, and looking forward into the future. So if you like Bad Bunny, you like it. If you hate him, you will still end up hating him. And please, if you have small kids, this is not an album for children, people. But and if you don't know Spanish, like, yeah, there's a lot of fucking profanity on this record. So what do you think of Bad Bunny as an artist? Are you a hater? Are you a lover? And what do you think of the new record, Nadie sabe lo que va a pasar mañana? He's so big right now that he had an album listening party in the Coliseum in Puerto Rico, and it sold out in just like a few hours. So love him or hate him, Bad Bunny is a pop culture phenomenon. So until next time, this is Hector, the Shield Duna Couch, and I'll see you right here on the couch. Thank you and good night.